Hello, welcome to my September 2022 mortgage overpayment update. I'm the Geordie Saver, so if you're new to the channel, this is my blog series documenting mine and my partner's journey to overpay our mortgage and clear the balance as quickly as possible. Just before I go into the video, I just want to say a big thanks to everyone who commented on my last overpayment update video. It was just really nice to have so many supportive comments, lots of insightful comments as well, lots of people who are on the journey themselves, who had little pearls of wisdom that they wanted to share. I was just sort of taken aback, to be honest, because I put these videos on YouTube for, I mean, on one side it's from documenting the journey so I can look back on it and watch them myself in a couple of years' time, just to see how far we're progressing. But on the other side, just, you know, thinking that there might be people who take an interest in watch, but to have people actually comment was just really nice. And yeah, it wasn't just people were commenting like one or two words. Like, people were actually putting effort and time into sharing their story about paying off the mortgage. So yeah, it was really appreciated, and yeah, I'm glad that you've stopped by. So let's just recap on where I was at the end of August. I will apologise, I will say I, but it should be we. So wherever I say I, just remember that there's two of us doing this, because if my partner watches this video, they'll probably be a bit miffed that I keep talking about myself doing this when it's two of us making the effort. But anyways, so in August we ended with a balance of £121,540. So we were ever so close to dipping below the £120,000 mark on the mortgage. So let's just reveal the figures and see what happened in September. So yeah, so I had the standard payment of £509. So this is what automatically gets deducted and is what I'm contracted to pay my mortgage provider. And then we made an overpayment of £1,231. So as I mentioned in previous videos, our aim is to overpay by at least £1,000 a month. Now you might think, oh wow, this is way over that, but the reason for that, as we'll come on to, is that we are really aiming to dip under that £120,000 mark. So we had to sort of overpay by enough to get us under that mark, and then also overpay by enough so that when the interest got added onto it, that wouldn't then take us back over the amount. So that's why we've made a bigger overpayment, because I didn't want it to stretch into another month. It was too alluring, that milestone. And the interest that was accrued on our mortgage in the month was £114. So quite similar to the previous month. Actually, I'm going to just move this little box over to the side because it's getting a bit distracting. Actually, I'll leave it there. And yeah, so that meant that the balance paid off over the full month was £1,626, which is quite a lot of money. And as I mentioned, we've hit that milestone of getting the mortgage under £120,000. So if I just move this box so we can see the total figures, it's quite a, I don't want to say it's a huge moment, because maybe that's overstating it, given the journey I'm on, but it is, actually I do feel like it's a big moment. It's a big moment here because it feels as if there's been quite a lot that's been paid off the mortgage now at this point. So we started the year with 132, I'll call it £133,000 on the balance, and we're nearing the end of the year, and we've already crossed another 10k barrier. So we went past the 130s, we went in the 120s the past few months, and now we're under 120. So that feels like a significant chunk is gone, because how I visualize my mortgage, I visualize it in lots of 10k. So yeah, that it was a real aim that I wanted to get to this point by the end of the year, and we've got to it, you know, because at the start of the year it's easy to say you're going to overpay by £1,000 a month, but whether you do it or not is a different story. But we've managed to do that for 9 months. So you can see here that actually we should have only paid £4,500 at this point towards the mortgage, but actually we've paid an extra £9,500, and the interest that's accrued on that the mortgage this year so far has been £1,091. Now, if you're in the UK, I mean, I think it's probably apparent in lots of countries, but definitely in the UK, over the past couple of weeks, you'll have seen in the media and the news that mortgage rates have been ramping up. So just to put it into context, the interest rate that I have on this mortgage is just over 1%. We fixed last year for a 5-year fix, so I've got around 4 years left on that fix. Now, I think from the news I read this morning, and don't quote us on this, the average 2-year fixed deal that's offered by the kind of average lender is around 6%, and it's slightly lower, but a similar story for a 5-year fix. So I feel very fortunate that we are only paying, I mean, by the end of the year you can scale this up. I think it's going to be about £1,400 in interest, whereas, you know, 6%, a 6% interest rate on the balance that we've got on our mortgage would probably land us somewhere in the region of £6,500 interest, or maybe 7,000. So yeah, let's call it we've at least saved £4,000 in interest from being on a lower rate than if we were remortgaging this year. And I think it really brings to home to me how important it is to have a mortgage balance that is manageable for interest fluctuations. Now, luckily, I am a bit of a worst case scenario expert in that sense. So when myself and my partner sat down and worked out how much we could afford for our mortgage, I ran the numbers through so I could understand what a 4%, 5%, 6%, even a 10% interest rate would do to our overall interest figures in a year, and whether we could afford that. So actually there's a buffer in my calculations for how much we could afford that. Yeah, if interest rates rose and we had to go on to a higher interest rate, then, you know, we could afford that extra £400, £500 a month. Unfortunately, I know from reading kind of case studies in the news, not everyone's been in that position, and obviously first-time buyers, if this is the first time you enter into the property market, then a 6% interest rate is just really severe for the current time. So I mean, I'm not an economist, but if you look at one of those graphs that shows you interest rates over the time, actually the long-term average interest rate is sort of in line with what we're seeing now, 5-6%, and actually the past 12 or so years of emergency interest rates have been really low. That's the anomaly. And I think for young people like myself who've only ever known low interest rates, it comes at quite a shock when the interest rates have now jumped up to be quite high. So yeah, that's got us thinking about, I guess, how fortuitous it is that we're on this journey of overpaying so that we can get our balance down as much as we can, so that by 4 years time, you know, who knows what interest rates are going to do in the next 4 years? Will they go up? Will they stabilize? Or will they go down? I don't think anyone's got a crystal ball, but there'll probably be some projections that come out over the coming weeks and months predicting what the landscape of mortgages is going to look like over the next couple of years. So that'd be really interesting to see. But hopefully the more of the balance that we can knock down, the less interest we will have accruing at that higher rate. So before I waffle any longer, I will just show the overall figures that I like to keep a track of. So the first one is percentage paid off in 2022. So of the start balance, how much of the balance did we pay off? We paid off 10%, well, 9.7%, but let's round it to 10 because it's quite a good number. We paid off 10% of the balance this year, which is really, really good. I mean, I find it really hard to believe that I'm saying this, that we've paid off that much, because it was a bit of a pipe dream when we started, and it's actually all working out now, which is nice. And then the total overpayment so far is £18,694. The goal that we've got for the end of this year is to got over that £20,000 mark. And again, just thinking about the potential high interest rates in the future, one of the, there's two benefits I see was overpaying my mortgage, and I will just flag, I think I forgot to say at the start, but I'll always try and put in the notes of my videos that I'm not a financial advisor, so my musings on mortgage overpayment are simply for my own personal finance journey blog, entertainment purposes. What were we going to say? I don't want to advise anyone on overpaying the mortgage because, I'm not the best person to give that advice, But what I will say, from my own journey is that if I look at a 6% interest rate and say in 4 years' time we have to pay a 6% interest rate, the extra interest that we would have to pay if we still had 20 grand, that 20 grand on our mortgage would be 20 grand times by 6%. So that's £1,200 extra in interest that we would have to pay a year. So that's quite a lot of money. That's, it's, let's put in context, let's say it's a holiday a year, it's a UK, a week somewhere in the UK, or maybe flights into some accommodation somewhere. So it's a significant amount of money, and that's per year. So every year that extra 20 grand is on the mortgage, that interest that you've paid is building up. So £1,200 a year, which it's massive. So it has its benefits. It's sometimes hard to see what the benefits of overpaying so much are when interest rates are so low, because there's that counterfactual of you could get a better interest rate elsewhere by putting your money into investments. Again, I'll just preface that by saying I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take what I say is golden. So it's, now that we're getting a bigger chunk of overpayments, I'm feeling that the benefits are really starting to show. And the final thing I'll say in this video, and it's something that I touched on in the last video and I got a lot of support for in the comments, was this feeling of burnout. And you might say, oh, you've only been doing it 9 months, how can you be feeling burnout? And what I mean by that is, to sustain these overpayment levels at the moment, it's reduced the amount of disposable income that myself and my partner have to our fingertips. And we're very fortunate that we've got disposable income in the first place, but actually it means that saving for things that aren't mortgage overpayments, so saving for holidays, things like Christmas, events out, it's a bit more of a task than it would be if our overpayments were a bit more, lower is the word, but I'm trying to think of how else to describe it. Maybe if the overpayments were a bit more reasonable, because I think ideally I want to get to a sweet spot where we're overpaying by an amount that feels substantial in terms of overpayments, but doesn't feel like we are sacrificing too much from a discretionary spending point of view. And I don't think we're at that. I think with the amount that we're overpaying, it's quite difficult to have sort of free money to spend on other things without constantly checking my bank account. And that's it. It ends up being this this weird cycle. So I overpay to avoid or minimize the chance that I'll end up in a poor financial situation in the future. So I want to avoid the possibility of me not having money to live on and so on. But actually, if you overpay by too much for a short period, you end up in that position. You sort of end up acting as if you're in that position. So probably that idea of me sort of checking my bank account each week to check I've got enough money to pay for things I want to pay for in the week because I've spent so much in overpaying, sort of is the position I'm trying to avoid being in the future. So I probably haven't articulated that the way I want to articulate it, but it makes sense in my head. It's sort of, I'm sort of living the situation I'm trying to avoid, but it's a bit of a bizarre thing to say. So there's this element inside me that's wondering whether we ease off on the overpayments just for a period of time to see how that feels. I don't like the expression "you only live once" because I think that can be used to just be reckless with money or reckless with things, not care about your health, not care about your finances, and expect, someone else to sort of do things that you should be doing to look after yourself. But what I would say is there's some truth in that I am in my 30s, and my partner in our 30s, and we want to have a balanced approach to finances so that we don't feel as if we've sort of spent our 30s, saving away, and, God forbid, we have some medical emergency happen or medical situation that happened in our early 40s where, we're not as mobile or we're not able to do the things we want to do. So that's a bit of a waffle, but the result of that is that in October we have decided to reduce our overpayment so that we pay £1,000 in total across our standard payment and our overpayment. So it's reducing the overpayment to about £490, I think it is, which is still substantial. It's more than we did prior to 2022 per month, but obviously it's not as much as we were. So the projections and how quickly it will be to pay off our mortgage will change. I'll discuss it next month because I'll have had a month of having that disposable income and feeling how it's been. But what I would say, one of the other benefits of overpaying in this way has been that we've been able to give ourselves an extra £500 a month by just reducing our overpayments. So yeah, it'd be a lot harder to get that pay rise by getting promotion and so on. But actually, as we've got used to overpaying, we can free up that money. Technically, we could free up £1,000 a month if we wanted to stop overpaying tomorrow. I mean, we're not going to do that because we still feel motivated to overpay. But that is another benefit of overpaying that I found. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I've waffled a lot. If you've made it to the end of this video, well done. Yeah, let us know. Let us know in the comments because I'd be intrigued to know if anyone's made it this far. And as always, share your thoughts on mortgage overpayments, your journey. I'd be interested to read them, and I'll see you on the next video.